So I'll start the recording. There's nothing on the agenda for today. I was planning to show you the latest on the Cloud Robotics Hub site. And then we can just discuss whatever. So let me send you the URL, because we have something that is visible on the public internet. We've got the homepage, which doesn't have a whole lot on it. And most of the pages, in fact, don't have a whole lot on them, except for meetings, where I have filled out some of the past meetings and put recordings.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm still hoping to flesh more out, but yeah, this is now available as a public repository. So if either of you want to contribute to it in any capacity, please feel free. If you want to, I don't know, add an entry pointing out that Christian, you talked about RosTool, maybe we could have that as a resources entry or something. But I'm hoping to fill out the survey data next, and then we can start curating resources and making it a bit more inviting, I guess.
Yeah, this is nice. Quick question about the URL. There's 2 GitHub IOs. I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, so this was a misunderstanding on my part. I didn't realize how this worked. So how it works is, if you have your organization name the same as your repository name, you only need it will use the name of the repository as a base URL. But if your organization name is different from your repository name, so I've got -WG instead of hub, then it will use the organization name followed by the repository name. So we could have just called this Cloud Robotics Hub, and I didn't know that.
Okay, that's good. And then, the other option, I guess, would be to get Cloud Robotics Hub, the organization name, or was that taken?
I haven't looked, to be honest. That could be worth doing, yeah.
So I checked last time we were on the call, and I saw that Cloud Robotics itself is taken, but I thought Cloud-Robotics was available. Let's check here.
We could take a look.
Yeah, Cloud Robotics is taken and completely unused. Just a little frustrating when people just have sort of squatted. Oh no, it hasn't been updated in a while, but it seems to be somehow associated with IACCR, some sort of conference.
Yeah, that's why we couldn't just get cloudrobotics.github.io.
Yeah. Oh, and Cloud-Robotics is taken by Raputa. Okay. Yeah, got it.
So we could get Cloud Robotics Hub. That seems to be free, and then I can just literally push to that organization instead of this one. So we probably could get the same. We could get the cloudroboticshub.github.io. It's probably not required if we end up getting a URL for it anyway, which I would look into, like a more official one.
I mean, that has some benefits. The benefit of staying with GitHub.io is that immediately when people open the page, they realize this is a completely open source, everything, you can contribute to it, kind of thing. So what's interesting too is the cloudrobotics.github.io actually is just a forward to like a redirect to Cloud Robotics info. And that is that ICCR conference, which actually, interestingly enough, is the International Conference on Cloud and Robotics. Does either of you, does either of you know about it? I haven't heard about it before.
Is it the French one? Is it the one that was? Yeah, I saw it. I never participated. It's been there for a while. I don't know how active it is, to be honest. I remember seeing it already a few years ago, though.
Yeah, it seems to be like a 1 day. Oh, well, wait. The program is very sparse. There's a reception, then there's a keynote, then there's lunch. And there's one talk, then a keynote, then there's coffee break, discussion, and it's over. That doesn't sound like much of a conference.
No, yeah, I think it was organized by a company. I think it wasn't, but I don't know much about it. It's just out of memory from seeing it before.
Got it.
So you guys would prefer Cloud Robotics hub.github.io instead of, for instance, Cloud Robotics WG.github.io, which is also the name of the working group. To me, they're all the same. So I
was hoping we could get something with one less qualifier, meaning just Cloud-Robotics or Cloud Robotics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel strongly about the hub versus the working group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it's all the same. But we cannot get it without anything else, right? You check now.
We could get the same as the organization name, Cloud-Robotics-WG. The reason I went with Hub was because I looked at cloudrobotics.github.io and found that ICRA conference and thought, well, maybe they'd let us take it over, but it's easier if we just use a slightly different name and host a fresh one.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should I guess we should decide whether we want to go with a pathless domain and just put everything on, like you said, in the repository that's named like the org. Otherwise, we should probably put a redirect from the GitHub IO directly, because currently that's a 404, right? You know what I mean? Like this domain here. If you just put this into the address bar, you get a 404.
Yeah.
Anyways, but it looks very nice. Like, I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Maybe people would be searching for that, and we can just redirect it on. I can look into that. Sounds like a good idea.
How should we contribute, Mike? Should we directly write things? Should we make
pull requests?
Pull requests. Okay.
Yeah, I've set it up so that main is protected even from me.
Okay.
Pull request merges only into main, and it auto builds main and deploys it.
And then we would should we use the meetings also to discuss the pull requests, or how do you want to do it? Or you want to do it more streamlined?
That is a good question. I guess if there's something to discuss, then this is the best place for it, assuming we don't have other items on the agenda. Like, if people do actually want it to use it as a space to discuss things, then we should make sure there's time for that, or if there's a talk coming. But yeah, definitely today, I think there's space to discuss it. So absolutely anything you want to discuss, we can bring up now. And yeah, I think in the future, it just depends on agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'll create a pull request to add something to the resources just so that it's not empty. And then do you want me to clean up the blog? It currently still has the Dockosaurus blog.
Yes. I was leaving that until we had a blog post to put there, because I want an example that people can copy. We could also delete it because, this is the same template I'm using for my site. It's Markdown. There's plenty of documentation online as well. So it wouldn't be hard to set up again if we deleted the templates.
Yeah, I can also write sort of a very first blog post that is sort of minimal, that just says, this is the blog, this is the kind of post we invite here, or whatever. This is I'm assuming we are open to third-party contributions to that blog, right? We're not leaving, or yeah, actually, let me just ask another question. were you imagining that only us write blog posts for this, or how do you want us to invite others to do that too?
I had imagined that we would do it because other people wouldn't want to. As in, if we have a talk, then we would write the blog post summary of it and link the video or something.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, like when you have invited speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost like yeah, I get it. It's almost like meeting minutes, but not as minutes, but more like a summary and like, this is the upshot. This is what we learned.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the idea behind the blog. Of course, we need people to come and talk for that, which I'm still looking for speakers. So if you know anyone.
Well, I know we had Tomoya as a guest, as a listener last week, and he's definitely somebody who should give a talk, I guess.
Yeah, I could reach out to Tomoya directly. I'm not sure if Tomoya signed up as a potential guest speaker.
He's on there. If you can't find him, you can always reach out to him on Rust Discourse. He's pretty active there.
Yeah, great. I will do that as a hopefully for next week we could get him to talk.
Because I think somehow, speaking to you guys and also the others, I am somehow changing my view on the things that you can do with Cloud Robotics, because Christian is a very much web kind of building GUIs on top of robotics things. And instead, I think Tomoya is a bit more the view I was having before meeting you guys, which is distributed ROS graph across the cloud and across the robots. And then he does it in a different way. You know, you probably have seen that he works with CubeEdge and is using the CNI plugins for Kubernetes clusters to basically extend a Kubernetes network into a robot, so that then it can build a ROS graph that is fully distributed. I think it would be also interesting to see that for which use cases that makes sense.
Yeah, I attended his ROS by the Bay talk here in the Bay Area maybe 6 months ago, and it was very interesting. However, I walked away with the impression that it was more of a orchestration tool rather than a distributed computation idea, meaning that I thought he was using it for fleet management, meaning like all of the services all of the Rust nodes on the robot itself should be microservices that can be spun up with Kubernetes. And then that was my understanding. Well, he was using that to make sure that all of the robots are running all of the microservices that they should. I didn't get the impression that he was also adding anything sort of on the communication side, but he may have. There was a lot in his talk I didn't grab.
I know that he posted something about using Cilium.io, which is one CNI, so a plugin for the networking of the Kubernetes clusters. So definitely he has this concept of having a continuous network, a sort of overlay network between the cluster and the robots themselves. And then I think he focused on orchestration, because that's the really cool thing about Kubernetes, right? You show that you can basically use it for doing fleet management and manage just like you would manage a cluster. So you can manage robots as a cluster. But then, of course, once you have the orchestration, that's just the enabler for building a very complex ROS graph if you wanted to, even one that fixes itself and scales.
Yeah, I thought that was really one of the features, right? That he had like all of the benefits of auto recovery, logging, all of the stuff that you usually get from Kubernetes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it would be awesome if he could talk. And I know he has a. I mean, we both know he has a talk ready. He could just repeat it if he wanted to save time.
Yeah. I think he gave one also, one at Roscon, right? Just recently. I wasn't there at the last Roscon.
Oh yeah, almost certainly. Not sure.
Great. I think something I was considering doing anyway is creating a YouTube channel. And then I'll still record the meetings and upload them as meetings, but also when people give talks, I can cut down to just that bit, upload to YouTube. I would do this for ROSTool. I think that was enough of a standalone talk that we could just upload it as a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And then we can link that in a blog post with a summary.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because people are probably more interested in in those than in our internal discussions. That can, for an outsider, that may drag on a little too long.
Exactly, and the meetings are really meetings, and instead in the blog we can even just put the talks, which is just the technical content without the WG stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And then if they see our talks and they want to join in, they can just go to the meetings page, and all of the information's at the top, so they can join in.
Yeah. So I guess then we already have first action point is a blog post about Christian's talk.
And a YouTube version, which I think that would be my action item.
Okay. What can I do? I mean, I can also look at adding some resources and maybe even start writing a draft of state of cloud robotics ideas or things that could go in there, and then we can discuss them in a couple of weeks.
One thing that I feel a little, I'm not sure what the right word is, but a little, not uneasy, but I'm a little, I think it's something that we need to think about, is the fact that we are in some ways not the authoritative cloud robotics group. And that bothers me a little bit because we want this to be sort of the official, open robotics, or as official as it gets kind of group. Yet I see, Fog Robotics in Berkeley. I see we randomly come across these two cloud robotics repositories. Like, well, one of them is a conference, and then Reputa, okay, fine, that's just a company and they're claiming the name. That may be less important. And then also we had, like, at Ross by the Bay last week, we had a speaker from Sweden, and he has some, like, the cloudgripper.org.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be awesome if we could somehow herd that group of cats together. And of course, everybody wants to be the shepherd, and they may not accept us as that. But I think one thing that we may want to do, just as a starting point, is to link to all of those places. It's sometimes surprising how much that alone does, because once you are the source where everything that links to everything else, then people may accept you as sort of the starting point to read about cloud robotics. So I can take that on. I can try to collect some of those links. And do you think, Mike, that would belong under resources, or do you have a different structure in mind?
I think that makes the most sense. Yeah. So yeah, link to other sites. I like that idea a lot.
All right.
Did you guys, I guess, are familiar with this, because since we're talking about collection of resources, you're familiar with this awesome cloud robotics repository, right? Because that's
we should link that too.
Yeah, because that's already a big collection of a lot of things.
That would be amazing. And Giovanni, I think the most important thing that I want to get up there on the site is that state of cloud robotics, the survey results.
Okay.
And we do already have our preliminary results, so we could literally just put those on.
I can do that.
That would be great. Thank you. I think that would be one thing where people actually want to come and look at the site. And then if we can start getting blog posts or YouTube videos, that would be another reason. At that point, I feel like, the front page I want to improve. I want icons that aren't half attributions to other things. But once they're updated, we could actually post an announcement about it. So great, let's get this out.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good. One thing that talking about awesome cloud robotics, one thing that a lot of these awesome such and such lists do wrong in my mind, or fail to provide as a service, is actually telling anything about those things that they're linking to, such as is still alive, right? Sometimes they are basically they're creating sort of the original internet problem, right? Like once you had too many pages, you really needed a search engine, and that's what Google solved. Before that, if you remember, Yahoo was just creating like basically a big tree of the entire internet. That didn't scale, and so they are sort of creating too much noise for their own good. So I think one thing that we can try to do is try to keep tabs on these things that we link to, and like at least categorize into active and inactive. And I think sometimes less is more. Last I checked, a lot of these awesome such and such robotics even linked to things like YARP, yet another robotics platform. I don't know whether you know about it, but as far as I can tell, it's pretty damn dead.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
Point. No. That's I agree. All I wanted to say is that I agree that then we should add these things to in the resources.
It's interesting that most awesome lists I look at are just the software repositories. They're just tools, whereas this is trying to link to articles and courses. I think this is trying to do what we're trying to do on the resources page.
That's why I mentioned it, because somehow it's already a quite extensive list. Although they haven't updated it for a while, I think. Yeah.
Which one are you talking about? I find two. One of Airbotics, which went under.
Yeah. The Airbotics one I was talking about.
Okay.
You're looking at.
So Airbotics went under. They are no longer in business. I talked to these guys some time ago, but they stopped. So I'm assuming they will not update that. But there's another one by Kepler C.
So there's a fork. Is it a fork, or is it a completely different one? I linked it, the one I was talking about in the chat. Let me see if it's a fork of it. Kfir 97 is the one you're saying.
Yeah, that Kepler C one. That seems to be at least. Well, actually, I don't know. It's been updated 6 months ago. That's also not super recent.
I didn't know this one. Yeah.
This has very few Cloud Robotics things and a lot more publications, which is interesting.
He's at Berkeley, so he's probably part of Fog Robotics. I'm looking up the guy right now.
He's got links at the bottom to other awesome robotics pages.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so he's part of Ken Goldberg's group on Fog Robotics, so that explains his kind of angle. Yeah. More academic and I guess we could add some. How do we feel about publications? Do we want to add some? I have a good tool for that. It's actually a side project of mine that we could use to just put it on the page. But the question is whether we want to have a listing or not.
I don't see why not if it's useful to people.
The only downside that I see is that I don't like the starting point would almost be copy and pasting what he converting what he had into a nicer layout like with BibTeX. But I don't know that we would be able to keep it up to date because I don't read papers very much anymore. So I don't go to conferences, so I don't know really what's happening.
Could we invite him to update our page?
Yeah, I think that we totally should. I mean, for multiple reasons, right? Also because he's the author of that other awesome Cloud Robotics thing. Maybe we can even ask him how he feels about what's the word? Joining efforts.
Yeah.
The action items from this meeting are mounting up, but
we'll just have to be pragmatic about it. In short, do you want me to reach out to him, or do you want to do that?
I think if you have had contact with him before, then you are in a better position than me for it. So
I have not, but I'm still happy to do it.
Then yes, please, actually.
Okay.
That'd be great if we could I guess it's mutually beneficial. We're providing him a public space for posting this stuff, and he's updating it.
Well, I mean, he has his awesome Cloud Robotics. I don't know how. Well, he has 15 stars on it. That's not a ton, but it's not bad either. Compared to 106 by Airbotics.
Yeah, I think the Airbotics one was more visible because they posted it on Ross Discourse, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll reach out to him. I think the main question for him will be, the first question will be, are you still maintaining yours? Or are you, open to us absorbing it and you can like contribute as much as you want to, or not? Because the last thing that I want to do is come across as we're somehow competing. If he feels really strongly about owning like that awesome list, then I want to sort of feel the ground first. So I'll do that.
Yeah, sounds really good. I think, Christian, you might have more action items than me today.
I'll try to use the opportunity to kind of catch up. You've been doing most of the work.
If you want to delegate something to me, let me know. Feel free.
Oh, you don't.
Otherwise, if you have ideas of what I can do,
I'm a quick and dirty guy. You'll be surprised how crappy of a first take I'll do on these things. But for me, it's more important to kind of get over the initial momentum and do something. So I have 3 items as far as I can tell, like link to other sites, write a tiny first blog post where we just say, this is it and this is what we plan to do with the blog. And then I'll reach out to Kepler C, Caillou, whatever his name is, Caillou and Eric Chen.
There's also building a list of links to other people's Cloud Robotics stuff.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It's sort of related to reaching out to this guy anyhow.
Yeah. I think one thing we would like in future sessions is more talks. So Tomoya is a good one, but if you know of any other people, either personally or like indirectly through talks you've seen online or anything, this is either of you, but I thought, Giovanni, as you were saying,
this guy also from Ken Goldberg group, of course, he could do. We could kill 2 birds with a stone and ask him also to give a talk, because he can talk about Fogros 2 and Fogros, the previous work, because that's of course another very famous approach in cloud robotics. So that's another candidate for a talk. And by the way, Ken Goldberg group was organizing a pretty successful cloud robotics workshop at IROS every 2 years, I think. So there's a lot of papers that came out from those workshops, and really nice talks too.
Do you know whether he's going to keep doing that? I heard contradicting information about Fog Robotics still going on.
I do not know. I know that Jeff was one of his postdocs, I think, and now he went somewhere else. And he was one of the organizers. So I don't know if they will be doing it anymore. Although you just met the professor from Sweden that was also one of the co-organizers of that workshop. So I imagine it will go on, maybe without Ken directly, but maybe with the other guys. I don't know.
That's actually quite possible, because oftentimes you know how it is, right? It's as long as they have funding for their project, they will do all of these things, and then sometimes they don't have follow-on funding. So yeah, maybe they'll just pass the baton to Florian, who seems to be pretty flush with money right now from the EU.
Yeah, exactly. They received a big investment, so I imagine he will want to keep that up.
Are you involved with that, Cloud Gripper, at all?
Not at all. I know some other people that are involved apart from him, but no, I'm not involved.
Yeah, we have. I think with speakers, we still have the chicken and egg problem of the usual marketplace chicken and egg problem. If you don't have large attendance, your speakers are not super motivated to come. And if you don't have good speakers, you don't have very good, you don't have a lot of pull for a good audience. I don't know quite how to solve that. I mean, so far we've been sort of subsidizing that essentially by just speaking ourselves, right? And we're happy to do that, but there's a danger that our audience or the people who do check the agenda that feel like, okay, well, it's always the same speakers and they're just sort of talking to themselves. Any ideas that we have to break through that are probably good. The only thing that comes to mind to me is there's always students who are about to graduate from these groups, right? Like Ken Goldberg's group, Florian's group. These students might be easier to get, especially if they have already given a talk at a conference about their paper or something like that. They have a talk ready. And then to the audiences, it will be, okay, well, I'm going to learn about fog robotics, as opposed to I'm going to learn about this very specific paper about fog robotics, because the speaker, we can make clear to them, we want to hear about both, right? Yes, we want to hear about what you have been contributing to, say, fog robotics, but if you can also spend like 5 to 10 minutes to give a general overview, which of course they should be able to do, right? I mean, they've been doing that for many years. If they're a PhD candidate about to graduate, I'm saying.
That's a very good idea. I agree with that.
Yeah. So I have a couple of responses. One is one of the ideas of hosting it on YouTube is that we can say, hey, come and talk to us. Also, we'll record it and put it online and tell people that it happened. So even if we're a small audience, it'll still get posted online with no editing effort on their part, which I think would be good for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part is I like the idea of bringing students in, and I wonder if as well we can target people who have talks ready by looking for people who have just given talks and then inviting them to come give them where we can record them and host them online. So if RosCon's just happened, if other conferences happen, we can look at the talk list and be like, oh, hey, that's Cloud Robotics related. Maybe they'd come and they'd want to come and give the talk again.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. That's less effort for sure. So maybe they have it ready.
Exactly.
Which makes me think of Florian now, because he just came all over on the other side of the pond to present all the work.
I don't actually know why. He must have been here for a different reason, because he didn't come alone. There were two of his students with him. And
I saw he posted on LinkedIn that they were visiting several Silicon Valley places. So I guess they were setting up other cooperations.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because that's actually where my idea came from, because I recently interviewed one of his students for a position for a company that I'm consulting. And that's how I thought about it, because of course, students these days it's a pretty tough job market, right? So giving them more exposure, honestly, is a win-win. I mean, they really benefit from that, and they will get some feedback too. Like so depending on the place, they will have to give a talk during the interview process, anyways. If it's a place that has anyhow an R&D inclination, like I'm thinking, like these MB Robotics, like or what's the other one? there's Peter Abeels, and then there's also Ken Goldberg's. These companies like Vicarious, which now is part of Intrinsic. I could imagine that they still make you give a talk, and then we can almost be a practice talk for them, because we're a pretty good audience, I think.
Yeah, and we can provide feedback as well, maybe.
Exactly.
Okay, all great ideas. So I guess coming from that is, in future we should be keeping an eye on conferences, putting out word that students can come and talk to us, that kind of a thing. How do we manage that?
Well, I will be looking at conferences about these topics anyways, but mostly the robotic ones. I'm not looking so much at the cloud conferences where they have robotic papers. So
I think that's the right approach. I expect most will present at the robotics conference.
Okay, so
the other one, because
that I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know. I mean, cloud conferences, there got to be so many, and I bet you what they talk about is much more general, much more low level, very noisy in the sense of all sorts of talks on, anything from databases to Kubernetes to other container platforms to data synchronization, like Spanner type of stuff. That's actually the stuff that, Mike, you probably know the best from all of us being at AWS. So if you do see in your cloud, the cloud bubble, if there's anything that you see, maybe you can let us know.
Oh, definitely. I'll keep an eye out.
Oh, we did talk about this at one point. I mean, AWS must have robotics customers, right? I mean, obviously, I know some of them. How involved are you with that? Do you have contacts there where you could just say, hey, do you want to come and talk to at our Cloud Robotics meetup?
Yeah, I know someone with a lot more direct customer contact than me, and I'm talking to him about potentially getting some of those customers into talk. And we have the clear understanding that we'd keep the talk as cloud agnostic as possible.
I think they're fine. I mean, if they want to tell us this is how we use, whatever, like AWS, since it's a third party, we want to hear the truth, right? It's not.
Yeah. I'm just bearing in mind what we've discussed in the past, which is we don't want things to look like an advert for one cloud company over another.
I know, and I was one of the people saying so. That's why I felt compelled to kind of clarify that, at least to me, it's fine if it's coming from a third party and they are just, we're not, the title is not, this is how we use AWS to accelerate our development. No, it's more like, this is how we do cloud robotics, and on their slides, they will mention the services that they use, right? Similar to I guess what I would compare it to is in the survey, we asked, like, what kind of tools did you use?
Mm-hmm.
And some people said, well, we use AWS Greengrass and we use whatever GCP such and such. I think that's fair game. Anyhow, yeah, I think the first thing is to get them to speak.
Yeah. So that's ongoing, but as my contact is through him, I'm kind of reliant on him, and he's very busy. So I just have to prod that along now and then. But I'm working on it, and it is a good idea. There's also Matt Hansen. You may know he's quite active in ROS Discourse. He was at AWS, and I'm friends with him. So we're hoping, or he's agreed that later in the year, we can talk about it together. He's moved to Picnic Robotics now.
Mm-hmm.
So so maybe he would be happy to come in, and I think he proposed talking about Space ROS. I said that could be good, and maybe he would have other contacts too. So
Picnic does some sort of cloud/web stuff too. I'm assuming, if you can talk about what he's doing there or what they are doing. I think it's always interesting when we hear about something that they are currently involved with. I'm assuming he's not working in Space ROS anymore, is he?
He was never employed to do it. It was always a side project, which I think is continuing. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, as long as he's still involved with it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somehow the space and cloud doesn't fit very well because I don't think there's any clouds in space. But I don't know. I know very little.
They just connect to cloud from the other side.
Exactly.
So they're on
From
the moon.
above.
Yeah.
They still see the cloud. Cool.
Great. Yeah. Any other ideas? Let me know. I'm happy to reach out or just reach out directly. There was one other thing that is not very important, but given we've got time, I thought I'd bring it up, which is that it's very easy with these Docusaurus sites to set up Google Analytics. And I think it could be some useful data. I'm hesitant because I don't want to keep like hidden figures, but I'm afraid that Google Analytics might give stuff that we don't want to reveal. I think it's all anonymized. I've never seen anything about a specific user. So I think it would be fine to set it up and even let people see the stats if they wanted. But I wanted to run that past you both.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I find Google Analytics super hard to use now that they've done that stupid change to GA4. I actually use the Search Console more, and I find it very useful because the Search Console, I don't know whether you know it, but the Google Search Console tells you with what keywords was your site found, right? And it shows you two things, impressions and clicks. And that's very useful because impressions, and if you have high impressions but low clicks, you can look at those keywords and go like, well, this keyword is really relevant to me. I wish people would click more. And that's sort of what people use for search engine optimization. The way that we as this group could be using this is to find out what the hell are people interested in, right? When they look for, like, what type of topics do people search for that we feel then it's a manual process. We have to look through the keywords and say, this seems like a topic that kind of belongs to cloud robotics. And then that can inform us a little bit on what kind of blog posts to write. Now, I don't know. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but going back to your question, I think it's a good idea if you think you can pull that off without too much effort.
Yeah, I have to set it up, get a key, and then stick it in a config file. So,
well, that's the easy part. But how do you make it visible to third parties?
Good question.
I'm sure there is some sort of API for Google, whatever. But I've never worked with the Google Analytics through an API.
I think it's a lower priority setting it up visible for third parties. I mean, we can get there eventually.
Yeah, maybe we should do it in steps. Let's just track it, and then if we feel like, and then you can look manually at it and see how things are going, and if there's anything interesting, we can still decide to share.
Yeah, okay. We could even do we're fine sharing this, just let us know and we'll send you what's going on. But yeah, this does seem like the kind of thing that people won't care about, so isn't that important. I'm just trying to keep everything open. So I'll set it up and worry more about sharing it later, as we said. Sounds good. And that keyword tip is going to be useful for Cloud Robotics Hub and for me. Thank you, Christian.
Yeah. All right.
Great. Anything else to discuss?
I don't want to start any new topics because everything we start ends in more action items.
It's okay. We'll make a list of action items for the next joiner next week to take on.
Okay.
No. Okay. Let's call it there then, and see you in a couple of weeks. Actually, is there a good way to stay in touch? Should we use the Google group, make a thread about blog updates or something?
Does Google Groups allow threads? I don't know. I always use the email.
you can go on the Google Group site and see all the discussions listed on the page. I guess the only thing that I'd be worried about is sending notifications to people who are only signed up for the meetings. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it leads to the question, how do we discuss this stuff? And yeah, we can just email about it.
Let's email, I guess it's easier.
Yeah, let's just, for now, the three of us can email. And then if we feel like there's something where we want the group's input, we can still decide to. I'm not too worried about making some noise on that Google group because, hey, people signed up for it. If they don't like it, they can unsubscribe.
Yeah.
So long as it's not just internal discussion that really just regards the three of us. Like, for instance, once we've added something to that page. Well, first of all, I think you should announce the page, at least to the group, and you can choose timing for that. But then when we make changes to that, I think that's something that we should be allowed to share in that group. And then,
yeah, we can definitely do that. I would like the site to not say it's under construction before announcing it, but definitely it needs an announcement.
Sorry, totally obvious. But pull requests on that org, right? When we create a pull request, we will have a lot of room for discussion there. So we can just all watch that repository, and we'll get notified about every pull request or issue that is created, and then we can discuss things there. That's actually
much easier. Yeah,
that's easier. I mean, yeah, it's a very well designed forum for discussion.
Yeah, true. Let's go with that. So maybe what we should do then is, if we're looking to create a blog post or something, start with a branch and a pull request, and then we can start working on it, and then have any discussions there.
Great idea.
Okay. With that, let's leave it there. See you in a couple of weeks. And let me know if you find any guest speakers so I can announce them, or announce them directly. I think you are both able to post to the Google group. So when I announce the meeting, just say, hey, I've got someone coming to talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye, guys.
Thank you both. See you then. Bye.
Bye.